Hello and welcome back to the Queen of Parks podcast. I am your host, Holly, and today I am delighted to share my crazy story of love, my ode to Disneyland Paris. Thank you for joining me again. Today, I am just going to talk all about our experience at Disneyland Paris, and I hope that you can glean some helpful tips and information about going to Paris, what to expect at the parks, and mostly I hope that you take away just how beautiful this park really is. We had a crazy experience. We were traveling. The main reason we were traveling out that way was to celebrate my husband's grandmother's 100th birthday, and that was in England. But we decided to do a week longer so that we could get over and visit Paris. It was my daughter's sweet 16 birthday, and it was fall break, and we wanted to just enjoy this family trip together and, of course, get over to Disneyland Paris. So we get to Paris, and first things first, I decide, since I'm the one that plans all of these things, that I'm going to try to save a little bit of cash and stay in one of these off-property hotels, because the train system that takes you to Disneyland is so convenient. And this is another one of those parks where there is a train station involved, just like Tokyo, and it takes you right to the gate, essentially. So it's very easy to stay even a couple stops away because the train service is really reliable and very easy to use. Unlike Tokyo, Paris doesn't have as many stops or lines crisscross. It's pretty easy to navigate, and especially if you're somebody this is your introduction to maybe staying in a city and using public transportation. This is one of those places where it's pretty straightforward. And I always say this, I don't know what kind of wizardry people use to just get around places without Google, but we have it now. And so we can utilize that service, that free service. And so if you are staying somewhere and you're gonna use a train and you're just not 100% confident and not really sure, you can literally type in where you are and where you want to go, and it'll tell you exactly which train, which line, and all that sort of information. And it'll even show you how to walk to the platform, So it is really reliable, and I highly recommend if you're not comfortable with train travel. Don't let that be a reason why you shy away from visiting some of these international parks. Just the whole, I hear it from people sometimes that they're nervous because they've never maybe traveled internationally and they're not really sure, what to expect. And I know now it's more common too, but please don't let that be a reason why you shy away. You can do this. You can do this. Anyway, so the train takes you directly to into the Disneyland Paris. There's a Starbucks there. And you walk outside and you're literally at the gates. So it's very convenient that way. We didn't even need to use that. We did use the train to get to our hotel, which was literally down the street from Disneyland Paris. I purposely, looked on Google, what have you, to see where everything was located and made sure it was going to be easy access to the park, so it wouldn't be anything that we need to deal with on the day of our park days. But, and we did do 2 days there. So getting over to Disneyland Paris was a whole thing in itself. I said before, the trains are reliable, and they are, and they will get you there. However, the day that we went, there was something going on where one of the stations or two of the stations for some reason were closed. There was something going on. Nothing sinister, but for some reason they were doing this particular day. Maybe it was a Sunday. I can't remember. They had closed those two stations for some reason, which meant you had an influx of people getting on these trains and not being able to like get off the trains or go to those two stations. So we got to our station and we had plenty of time for this train. Now, this is also a train where people are going to be getting off at other stops on the way to Disneyland Paris to like go home, right? So we're standing there and it's not too busy, and we kind of stand behind. There's like a line before like, you know, the area so that you know where to get off the train. And it's starting to get really busy. And I mean, really busy. First of all, we all have a suitcase, right? Because we just had left after staying in Paris for however many days we were there. I don't remember. And then we were getting on to our Disneyland. We did that at the end of that Paris week. So we're standing there with these giant suitcases and not really thinking much about it because we travel with suitcases and do this sort of thing, and it's not really usually ever an issue. And all of a sudden it's super busy all around us. And these people are like looking hungry now. Like everybody's waiting for this train to come in. And I'm like, I turn around and it is a sea of people. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And it seems like whoever is standing, like wherever the train happens to stop, if you're going to be in those doors that open, that's who's getting on the train. Because there's no way all these people are getting on this train. There's way too many people. So we're like, okay, we'll just stand here. And if the door opens in front of us, we are lucky. If it doesn't open in front of us, we stand here for another however long, right? The train pulls up and it is packed. And I mean full already, just filled with people. And people are fighting to get off the train because it's so packed, people can't even get off at their stop. So people are fighting to get off the train. The door magically stops in front of us and we're able to step on to the train. But we can't really step on the train. There's 4 of us, mind you, and these big bags. We are being herded onto this train and pushed. Like people are pushing you onto the train, and there's people panicking that can't get off the train. So we're in this like very like passive American moment where we're like these people need to get off, let them off, like let them off the train. But nobody wants to hear that because they're like, hurry up and get on the train, lady. You know what I mean? It's like a whole thing. So anyways, if that sounds stressful to you, if you're worried about that, it was very stressful. I would worry about that. No. We made it on the train. Okay. But here's what's happening now. I'm thinking about my son, you know, because like, I'm like, how is he going to do with this scenario? But the scenario is the scenario. Like there's nothing you can do to change it. He was actually fine. And we're all just like huddled on these stairs. This train is like a 2-story train. There's no room upstairs. There's no room downstairs, literally. So we're just standing on this staircase with suitcases. Giant fire hazard, right? If there anything that happens and we all need to get off the train, we're all dead. I'm pretty sure. There's this guy that has a full-on like panic attack on the train. It was crazy. Anyway, we finally get to our destination, and I believe we get like an Uber to the hotel that's down the street from Disney. This is going to be a story that concludes like this. Stay on property. If you've listened to any of my other shows, you hear me say that pretty often. Except for Disneyland. You hear me say it every time. Stay on property. Yeah. So we stay at this place, and it looks in pictures, because, you know, that's all I can look at is reviews, pictures, you know, on the map, where is it, that sort of thing. It's down the street from Disneyland Paris, something cool. And it has a free shuttle to the park. So I'm like, great, this is what we need, right? The rooms look clean and whatever. It is like, I think the only way to describe it, because, okay, in the photos, it looks like very, what you would think about, like, you know, Parisian countryside, I guess. Like, it looks very pretty, like that whole thing, and the way the building and all that. These rooms are so, like, it's like staying in a dorm. I don't know how else to say it. It was like staying in a dorm room. And, you know, when I say it had the bare essentials, it was the barest essentials. Like, if you forgot a toothbrush or any kind of thing like that, you had to go into this little like room that had some arcade machines, and you had to do like put your money in, and it wasn't cheap, and you had to purchase a toothbrush. It was like a vending machine for like basic toiletries. I mean, like things that you normally could just like go to the front desk for. So heads up, 7-Up, like, you know, that was a thing for us. And then the room had like, it was like a dorm. I don't know how else to say it. It was like walking into a dorm room that was going to be a room, which, like, hear me now. We're just like, it's fine. We're going to sleep here. We're going to get up and go to the park. There was one pillow per bed. And if that makes me sound however it makes me sound, I don't know. But even in our like basic hotels here, you have like some pillows on your bed. I don't know. So then we went down, and we also didn't have like an alarm clock, which I thought was weird. Just like some really random, like basic things that you just like think you get, which, I mean, to be fair, we have phones and stuff, but it's like you kind of want to see the time. I don't know. Does everybody just like look at their phones when they want to know what time it is if they're staying in a hotel? I'd like look over at the digital clock still. I don't know if that makes me old or what. But anyway, we went down to the front desk to be like, hey, you know, can we get a pillow? And these guys, first of all, it's so funny. So they were very friendly, but they thought we were like, we might as well have been like the most, I don't know what, like hoity-toity Americans or something. I don't know. Because I felt like what we were asking for is like pretty basic. I think somebody in our party forgot their toothbrush. So that's how I know that you have to go like purchase a toothbrush or whatever. Because they were like, yeah, no, we don't just like give toothbrushes right here. Like, where do you think you are? Like, you need to go down the hall and purchase one out of the vending machine, obviously. And we're just like, okay, you know, sure. And then the other thing is like when we asked for the pillows, they were like, well, how many pillows do you want? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, do you have like 4? Because I'm like, everybody gets 2 pillows. Is that crazy? Please, if I'm being whatever extra, I don't know what to say. And the guy looked at me, and they both looked at each other, and they were just like, ha, 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 ha. You know what I mean? How'd you say you're annoying? You know what I mean? And I was just like, okay, well, that's fine. You know, we're totally cool with one pillow, because there's like, we only have like 1 pillow for the whole hotel. We couldn't possibly give you 4. I was just like, that is fair. Look, you know, and the thing is I'm just like, when in Rome, I didn't know, you know, I just thought that was like a basic thing for a hotel. Anyway, I don't want to harp on about that. That was just something funny that kind of happened. So just like, you know, look at I don't know what. Reviews aren't going to do it, because I'm like, here's the thing. It had everything else it had everything that you needed, right? There was a bathroom, there was toilet paper and towels, and don't ask for extra towels. I can say that, because I did think I was going to ask for extra towels, and I just was like feeling the room out, and I was like, listen, girl, you just go up there and you just use what you have, okay? Use a few Kleenex if you want something extra, right? And I don't think we had Kleenex either in there, but anyway. So the other thing that the hotel had was a bar, and that becomes important later. At this time, when we actually rolled in and the whole thing, I think it was closed, but whatever. And again, I think it was like the day that we got there. I think it was either like a weekday or what have you, and the whole day was just like whatever. Just like, let's go to bed and go to the park tomorrow. Done. And in the morning, though, they did have a free breakfast, which was like really nice, and it had like. Everywhere we went that had like a breakfast in Paris, it was just like a really like interesting assortment of foods, and I really enjoyed that. There was like cold cuts and like soft cheeses and different kinds of breads and pastries, and it wasn't like, you know, what you're used to getting. Like a hot breakfast that had like, you know, eggs and sausage. Like they still had sausage, but it was just different. You know, things were just, obviously we're in a different country, right? Okay, that's all I'm trying to say. But it was cool. It was nice that they had it. We enjoyed it. And it was a little weird eating lunch meat and cheese in the morning, but whatever. When in Rome, right? So yeah. Anyway, so we get to the park, and we take the free shuttle. You go stand outside and you wait, and the shuttle takes you down to the park. And I think we were there for open. We got up and went over there, and we get over to the park, and the first thing that I notice is, I can now visually see how close the train station is to the park, which, you know, like I've heard people talk about it, but not really going into like try to give you like a visual of you literally the train station. There's like stairs or the doors that lead out of the train station. You are now in the area where you would go to choose your gate that you're going to go into. Disneyland Paris does have 2 different gates. One has recently been refurbished, and they have the main Disneyland gate. And again, while we were there, this was like 2 years ago. The Disneyland Hotel was under a big refurbishment, but that's one of the first things that you notice is that their Disneyland Hotel, not only is it a beautiful building, but it is literally at the front gate. So there are rooms that you can stay on with balconies that you can literally walk out onto and watch the fireworks. Like your balcony is in the park and it is stunning. And these rooms are like extremely expensive to stay in, but if you have the money, go stay in them. And I'm sure you're going to have plenty of pillows, you know, and toothbrushes if you need them. And you should, for the price that you're paying, have as many pillows as you need. But it looks, and I have seen people post like their little family gorgeousness that they all got to experience in these things, and they are like incredible. Because first of all, this park is just breathtaking. I mean, the flowers, just the castle, the hotel. I mean, everything is beautiful. And it's kind of what I expected. You know, when you hear Paris, it's such a glamorous city when you think about it. And you think about romance and storytelling and, you know, the Eiffel Tower and just beauty. And honestly, the park represents that. For me, when I was there, that was my biggest takeaway. It is so beautiful. And for me, that was the focal point of this park, the beauty of Disneyland Paris. There's something special about being there. There really is. And yeah, I would go 500 more times. But anyways, so yeah, we get to the park and we are doing, like we have to go to the main gate because they do have really wonderful things available. If you do have like neurodivergence in your family. And I can just say that, first of all, the cast members were wonderful. You know, everybody speaks English. I took 2 years of French in high school, which was, it's shaky to even say that because I know I barely passed with C's and I'm not feeling like happy about saying that out loud, but it's the truth. And I thought, you know what, before we go on this trip, I'm going to do the Duolingo thing. And I gave myself like a good 6 months on this Duolingo. And I was like, oh, I'm surprised on how much like stuff I actually remember from class. Like I did learn some things and, you know, I'm pretty far ahead. Not like, listen, when I say I'm far ahead, I'm not just at the very, very beginner. Bonjour, you know what I mean? And so I felt really proud of myself. And I was like, oh, maybe I'll get over there and I'll be able to like, you know, I think they really like it when you try to like speak their language. Although I will just say, this is a side story. When I lived in England, was on a bus and this family came on, clearly like visiting from, you know, somewhere in France. And now, mind you guys, I was pretty young at this time. I think I was like 19 or 20. And this family, they get on this there and they're starting to talk French. And I'm sitting there like, ooh, this is my opportunity to like use some of that French I failed at in school, right? So I literally looked up and I'm so embarrassed to say this. I'm so mad at myself for sharing this. I don't know what happens when this microphone turns on. And I was like, je m'appelle Elan, you know, however I said, it was probably that cringy. And this woman looked up at me. And if you're not watching this, you can't see my facials, but she just puts a hand up and she shakes her head and looks down and she's like, no, just don't. And I remember just coiling into myself. I was taking the bus. I was on my way to work. And I just remember feeling wrecked for the rest of the day and possibly up to now, 20 years later. Because I literally was like, that's the most embarrassing thing you've ever done. Like, shut up, girl. What are you trying to do? You know? Anyway, so here's me thinking like, well, you know, I'm going to at least be able to say like, you know, can I have one croissant? And where's the bathroom? Or like whatever. I thought I'll know some basic phrases. It can't be that hard. Like some of this is coming back to me. I feel more confident. So I thought I'll do that. So I practiced the Duolingo for like a really long time in my head. I get there and I just want you to know, for me at least, Duolingo is a lie. All those little people that cheer me on, the little bird that made me feel guilty when I didn't get on there every day, all that whole thing, fail for me. I could not, I passed Bonjour, nothing, absolutely nothing helped me. So I ditched that pretty early on in the game. And I did like at least try to say, you know, Bonjour a few times and different things, like, you know, like basic stuff. And one time in our little like Disneyland stint, I think I actually said it pretty good. Because then the cast member started talking to me in French. I was like, oh, I've convinced her. I've won one. But then I'm like, oh, crap. I don't know what to say now. So then I just looked at her like with, like something like you knew I didn't know any French. And she was just like, and just started talking to me in English again. But anyway, I convinced somebody, and that is the main thing. The Bonjour was very convincing. But anyway, so we get into the park, and when you see that castle, and this was the one thing I was like, okay, the main thing I was the most excited to see was the dragon that is under the castle. I had listened to a podcast that had the Imagineer that helped create the dragon at Disneyland Paris. So the podcast was DL Weekly, and I love them. They don't know that, but I'm a fan. And Terry Hardin is the Imagineer. She was the lead Imagineer and sculptor for the dragon. And I'm not going to try to say it in French because we all know now that I suck at it, and everyone should know that. It's despicable. Anyway, so I was so excited to see it in person. And again, I still have not looked at any footage of this because I want to see it in person with my own eyeballs. And it's just one of those things I am going to go back just to do. And now, of course, they have the expansion that they've done over there with Frozen and all that stuff. I definitely have to get back over there. But yeah, so this day it was closed. I don't know. They were working on something or doing some updates like they do, what have you, but making it, whatever. And so I was really upset about that. But, you can't be too upset when you're standing in one of the most beautiful Disneyland parks out there. So I moved on rather quickly. But the cool thing about the castle is there's like 2 levels. And so when you're walking through it, there's this beautiful like tree in the middle, and you kind of like walk up the staircase around it. It's just gorgeous inside. So I can't say enough about how beautiful this castle is. It is Sleeping Beauty Castle. And there is nods to Sleeping Beauty, throughout the experience of you being in there, but it's all done so beautifully. And I really enjoyed spending a little bit of time in there and just looking around. And they did have some beautiful balconies that were closed to the public that day, but you can walk out onto these balconies and look, over at the park and stuff. And so that was really cool. I kept looking at the castle throughout the day just because I was like, I hate that our eyeballs cannot remember what things look like as fresh as when we look at them. Like, that's such a struggle. Like a sunset or a beautiful mountain scene or anything. This castle was the same thing for me. Like, let me keep drinking this in as long as I can because I know I'm going to have to like look at pictures later because my eyeballs are not going to remember this the way it truly is. It is so gorgeous. And one of the things that I really enjoyed about Disneyland Paris was some of the things that they have there are just so different to anything that we have. They have this amazing garden that you can walk through that is Alice in Wonderland with all these props throughout it. I mean, they even have like you can see the little, like the deck of card guys, like walking around with their little poles and stuff. Like, it's so cute and it's so immersive. And it's large and it's beautiful. And there's plenty of opportunities to stop on some of these fun props and take photos with your family. It's just so cool. And they also have, a cafe that you can go and eat in as well. That is also Alice in Wonderland. But the garden theme, even before you get into the gate of Disneyland, there's just beautiful florals everywhere. And, Disneyland is another one of those places in California that has just beautiful flowers and everything because, they have the weather and the moisture you need to have these beautiful things. But Disneyland Paris is the same. I mean, just gorgeous flowers everywhere. So I'll try to shut up about that. I just want to put it across how amazing that truly is. One thing I do want to say just while it's on my mind is that before we went on this trip, I always heard people say things that were pretty negative about Paris and how people are rude or and in the parks. And I just want to say that, you can have, bad experiences pretty much anywhere that you go. You could bump into somebody that's just having a rough day and have a bad experience. And I don't want to discredit that. I don't want to say like these people, I don't know what I'm talking about. Like they probably did have some crazy experiences. Our experiences were so wonderful. They were wonderful when we stayed in Paris. I took pictures with strangers, which, like just going to cafes and having just wonderful service, and really just loved on these people that were, first of all, diverse and multicultural. I really loved that about Paris. And that was something I really enjoyed about our trip. I felt like everybody that we met, I was so happy to be there, and people were so friendly. I do think, sometimes, and again, I'm not talking about people that told me they had a bad experience, not at all. But I do think sometimes, we go abroad and maybe we're nervous, or, we come across a certain way. Maybe we're used to certain things, like us coming down asking for extra pillows, and they're like, who are you? You know what I mean? Just for us asking. But I do think sometimes it's how we come across. You know what I mean? And I think if you're just really down to earth and cool with people, they're going to be pretty much down to earth and cool with you. That's not saying that everybody's going to be that way, or that like obviously there's not those experiences out there, but that was our experience. We had a wonderful time. People were friendly, and just felt really fuzzy about it. The only thing I will say is I know there's a lot going on right now with like pickpockets and people saying like, don't travel here, don't travel there. I think everywhere you travel, obviously you have to be mindful of your surroundings and be smart. And I will say that I did not love being in Paris at night. Okay. Like, we were in certain places that felt fine. But there was a lot of, especially the train stations, where I was like, we can go back to the hotel now. Like, I don't love this. We didn't feel it. There was definitely like some sketchiness, and it wasn't just me being like, oh my God, I'm like this foreign American, meh. There was some sketchiness for sure. And so you're in a big city, you got to just be careful. But man, the sights at night when things are lit up, it's not to be missed. And I do not regret going out. I just probably would have taken advantage of more like Ubers and stuff instead of just like always relying on the train, because it was so cheap to get here and there. But it is very walkable. And when you're in the very lively touristy areas, which I recommend sticking to at night, like it didn't feel sketchy or anything. It was just like getting on the train and stuff. So again, you can avoid that by grabbing an Uber or something like that. And the other thing is I'm pretty sure one of our hotels was fully haunted. So we did go to the Disney place a day early. We kind of wrapped it up a day early and headed over there, because I was just like, I cannot stay here one more night. Like, it was freaky. Anyway, sorry about that diversion, but I'm going to have some. Back to the park. This park has the most amazing rides and vibes. One of the things in Tomorrowland that I want to talk about is their Space Mountain, because their Space Mountain is completely different to ours. First of all, their whole Tomorrowland is very different. They have a very like steampunk theme happening over there, and it's very cool. Like, I don't know if it's my vibe, but it's definitely, I'm not a big steampunk person, but I kind of appreciate the creativeness of it and that it's a very strong theme, and I like theming. And they definitely, like, it's not our Tomorrowlands where we're like, what's going on over here? What is it? It's like, this is what it is. And I appreciate that. But their Space Mountain is like a crazy coaster that has inversions and all kinds of stuff. It's very different to ours, so that was super interesting. They do have an Autopia. The Autopia smelled just as bad as ours, like gasoline. But it was very pretty, and we did get stuck on it for like 30 minutes. And aside from that, it was very cool. When we did get off and we were heading through Tomorrowland to our next venture, I did see the smoking area that they have there, which is totally weird. I've talked about that before on maybe the Christmas episode or something, but it was something, just, I get it. People are like, well, it's Europe, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, but it's still Disney. It still feels weird. Like, I get it. Like, the cool thing is they're like, well, we're going to build this park, but we are going to be smoking and we are going to be drinking, and, take it or leave it, friends. And so they built the park still, and they kept their smoking, and it's a smoking section. So it is like parents smoking with strollers and a cloud over their children. And it's just a little strange. And I know it's totally normal over there and everything, but you know, it's funny because like I lived in England for a really long time and that culture was definitely a thing, but I guess I forgot a lot about that kind of stuff. Or maybe, you know, when I left, I had littles, you know, I had my son there, but I guess it was so long ago that when I saw it, I was just like, whoa, that's crazy, you know? So one of the really cool things that Disneyland Paris has is in their Adventureland, they do have Pirates of the Caribbean, Indiana Jones, and the Temple of Peril and Adventure Isle, but they also have like a Skull Rock that you can go into, and it's very like cavey, and then they have rope bridges. And if my feet weren't going to fall off because I wore the wrong shoes that day, I would have loved playing on that bridge even longer. But like by the time we ended up over there, it was like nighttime. And I swear I was just like, every step was like knives. I was like, oh my God. But I still went on it. I try not to complain. And I complained in my head for like all the time though. So that was really cool. And there's a lot of really cool photo ops as a result of it being on the water and having just really cool like rock formations everywhere. It's like when you say Adventure Island, it was like Caribbean, Pirates of the Caribbean, like Adventure Island. It was very, very cool. And so that was a really fun area to go into and hang out at. So their Frontierland over there at Disneyland Paris had a very like cool vibe mix of cocoa aesthetic blending with Old West architecture, with like festive like Mexican folklore. So the area is celebrated for its like Dia de los Muertos decorations, and then there's like a permanent cocoa themed dining experience there now, which fits perfectly with that area, which we did eat there. And you know, it was fine. The food was fine. The food here while at Disneyland Paris wasn't like a big standout to us. But it was fine, you know, and we didn't take the time to book into one of the really nice restaurants while we were there. Maybe next time we go, we will. But for us, we just had like 2 days to spend there. So we were just trying to really soak up like the attractions and just walking around and experiencing the vibes of the park. And I didn't really want to sacrifice 2 hours since we were only there for 2 days to like a sit down dining. So I can't speak on that. I'm sure they have wonderful sit down dining as well, but we just didn't do that. But the food was fine. I can't complain. It wasn't bad where we ate, and it wasn't like stand out. I remember what we ate. Like it was just fine. Big Thunder Mountain, Disneyland Paris. So the really cool thing was going on Big Thunder Mountain at Disneyland Paris. It's different to the other ones in that there's like an island that you end up, you know, you go under these tunnels and caves and you end up on this like island as well. It's very cool. It was a really neat version of that ride, and I'd love to go back and ride it again, because when you ride on Big Thunder Mountain in different parks, sometimes they all kind of start to blend together. And I feel like this is one of those situations. It wasn't like Space Mountain where I was like, this is completely different, and it stuck with me. But I do remember just kind of the way that the ride went. And, you know, you did end up in that like little island situation, and you were underneath going through these cool like caverns and stuff. And I mean, that's the part that I think I really remember being very cool about the ride. So, and even when you look at it from the outside, because it does, when you're watching the coaster go through, it goes onto that island. It's just very cool. It's just very different and very cool. One thing I will say about riding on that ride is it is one of their more popular attractions. And so this is a situation where maybe spending a little bit of extra money to get the premier access to skip the line wouldn't be a terrible thing, because it's going to suck a lot of your time. And also paying attention to the crowd calendar, because they don't have the same school breaks that we have here. And if you pay attention to that, you can kind of get over there when maybe it's not going to be super busy, and then maybe it won't be such a big deal having that premier access. But I do think that's one of those attractions where that would be definitely helpful to have. I do want to also talk about the Phantom Manor. Yeah, so Phantom Manor is this really amazing version of Haunted Mansion that they have there. It's definitely a very much a darker storyline. It is still an Omnimover. Looking at this at nighttime across the lake is is stunning. It's a beautiful and very creepy looking attraction, and it's, you know, exciting to see it in person. If you are over there and you have littles, maybe check it out on a video or something before you go, but definitely this is an attraction not to miss over there. The way that our Haunted Mansion has like the fun ghosts and stuff that are like, you know, dancing or like the hitchhiking ghosts that, you know, everybody knows and puts in their front yard for Halloween now and stuff. It's not like that. It's got more of like a darker Western frontier horror. And it has like skeletal phantoms, decaying graveyards, and demonic apparitions. So yeah, it's definitely darker, and it's not going to be for everybody. So just to kind of wrap up that park, I know I have been talking about the beauty of the park and stuff, but the way that they design the park and where you're walking even and coming over to their gorgeous, and if you can see it in twilight and at night, the teacups, the way it's covered and the way that they've done it with the lighting, it's such a beautiful attraction to look at. Again, I'm not going on the spinning cups, but I like to look at it. Walking up to it, I mean, there's so many different areas that you find yourself in this very expansive feeling park that are just stunning to be in. And there's so many times where I looked around and between the ambience of the music that they were playing lightly in the background in each area and the way that the walking paths were, it was truly stunning. There was a really interesting area that we walked through at night, and I'm glad we saw it at night because it was really beautiful the way the lighting was over there. We didn't spend a lot of time over here, but it was like their Aladdin area in Adventureland, and it was styled to resemble the bustling Arabian marketplace of Agrabah. And it was very, very cool to walk through. And they even had like a walkthrough attraction that we did do about the story of Aladdin, which was really, really, really cool. And it was just neat to, again, see another area that we just don't have. I mean, that's one of the most exciting things about going to these parks is when you go into an area of a park that you don't have. And it's so fun to experience that for the first time. I did see a little Remy there. Actually, it was a very large Remy. I did not go over to take a picture with him. It was an actual live big rat in the bushes. Enjoying some popcorn, and we skedaddled rather quickly away from him, but he wasn't harming anybody, and I just assumed that he was the only one in the park. That's what I did in my brain, and so anyway, that was our Disneyland Paris day. It was a lot of fun. We really enjoyed that park. I'd love to go back and experience some dining and just spend more time there. It was really, really beautiful and very fun. So the next day we did go to the Walt Disney Studios Park, which is their second gate over there at Disneyland Paris. It is now known as Disney Adventure World. But when we were there, there wasn't even any talk of them changing the name or whatever. Like, we knew they were working on the World of Frozen situation over there that we knew about, but we didn't know like the full extent that all the other things. One thing that I did notice when we walked in was just how, like, you know, things did need like a little bit of a refresh. And I know I'm like always going to say that about certain things, but genuinely, like, it was so cool and everything, but it just felt like it needed to be updated, a lot of the things, especially when you first kind of walked in. That park was so much fun, and they have a Marvel area, which is amazing. So another attraction I really want to talk about is the Avengers Assemble Flight Force. This is an incredible ride. In fact, it's so incredible that I wish this was the ride that we were getting at Disneyland in the Marvel area of the park. It is a coaster, but the way that they've done it, okay, picture this. I feel like it's a lot like Rock and Roller Coaster in the way that there's like, you know, inversions, it's high speed, it's in a building. It's similar that way, but it's so cool because all around you is this technology where you can see Iron Man and Captain Marvel. I know so many people hate on those movies, but I just love them and I love her. They're like with you through this entire journey, like flying around you and stuff. It's so cool. It's such a cool ride. And I wish we had it so bad over here at Disneyland. But anyways, the fact that we have to go all the way over there just to ride this hurts my heart. But again, it's one of those attractions I would definitely go over there just to go on again because it's so cool. It's so much fun. It is a thrill ride. Like if you're not into that thing, you're probably not going to do this, but I would almost be like, just go on it anyway, because it's just an amazing immersive experience. They really nailed it with this ride. And again, this park is really interesting because similar to Hong Kong, I feel like they have a really interesting peppering of, different attractions that just make it really truly unique, and that is one of them. They have a Toy Story area, which is amazing, and they have a Cars themed attraction, which is super cool. And they have very Epcot feeling area where Ratatouille lives. And then they have a really cool ride called Crush's Coaster over there. I'm going to mainly talk about those areas. So I'm not going to talk about every little thing that they have, but those things really stood out to me. So the Marvel area is really cool, and it's where we saw our first ever drone show. Okay, they weren't over in the US yet. You know, now we have them in the different parks that you can watch and stuff, especially over in Florida. And we're seeing a lot more drone stuff now more than ever. But at that time, nobody in the States had it at the parks yet. They hadn't even started testing them over at Disney Springs over the water or anything. So I had never seen anything like that before. And watching that show at night, and first let me just say this without going a total crazy tangent. Watching the castle show at Disneyland, I didn't bring that up. That was beautiful. And they did half French, half English. That park was beautiful. You didn't need to know French. And even another show that we watched that was indoors, if you're in the parks, that is something that I'm like, it's not a waste of your time to go see the shows. They are incredible. And you do get that more feeling of culture too, experiencing the shows. And like I said, because they are half English and half in French, you know what's going on the entire time. And it's very easy to piecemeal together the story of what's going on. It's not difficult. It doesn't take away from the show. If anything, it enhances it. And in the castle show was stunning, of course, because the castle is stunning already. And then also their storytelling at Disney is unmatched. Beautiful storytelling, beautiful projections, beautiful parade at night. Oh my gosh, the floats. Don't miss any of that. Just don't. Even if you're there for one day, it's not a waste of your time and you will not regret. Same situation over there at the Marvel Avengers, that nighttime show with the drones though. I was like watching this thing like, what am I watching? I could not get over what they were able to do with these drones. It was unbelievable. I mean, truly. Groot dancing in the sky, like just unreal. Very exciting to see. And I know they do they've been doing the drones for so much longer than us. I mean, everything is, it's right over on top of you. I mean, it's unreal to watch it. The only thing that I would say is pay attention to where they have crowds kind of getting ready for the drone show. There's a reason why there's certain areas that are super congested. We were like, oh, let's go stand over here because there's, not really any people and we can all see the sky. Well, the thing about that is some of the buildings are really getting in your way of those drone shows. So there's a reason why they have certain areas where people are standing is because they can see the whole sky. So we were trying to in the middle of the drone show, I was like, man, we really can't see half of this face or whatever they're doing up there. And so we tried without being annoying, move over to some of these other areas, but then it's almost kind of too late. So you just kind of have to see what you can see in that situation, but incredible. Nevertheless, totally enjoyed it. Can't wait to go back and see more of it. Hope we see more of it here. It was amazing. Crush's Coaster. Okay, let's talk about Crush's Coaster. We rode that ride, I think 4 times. It's what all I could think about when we got onto the brand new one over at Epcot, Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind. So it's Crush's Coaster. It has very, very, very similar flow to the ride. You're inside a building and the motion, there's not any crazy scary drops. It doesn't have a reverse launch like Guardians of the Galaxy. Okay. It doesn't have the crazy tech going on, which makes it so amazing, but so much of the feel of the ride is so similar. and it was so cool because we didn't have anything like it. And we loved the Finding Nemo overlay on the ride, and it's such a fun ride. And like even the queue that you stand in, and especially when you come into the big room where you're going to get onto your vehicle, and it's interesting because you can fit 4 people on it, and there's like 2 people facing one direction, and then you're kind of sitting back to back, and so your other 2 people are facing the opposite direction. What fun. So it's like you're on a turtle shell essentially. And then you have like all the little seagulls all around you in that building, and they're all mine, 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 that whole thing. So, oh my God, this ride is like, I just can't even express to you like how much fun this ride is. And my son got on one fine. Like if you're a person that like kind of likes coasters, but not like scary, scary coasters, this is not a scary, scary coaster. It's just like a really fun coaster. And there's parts where you kind of come outside of the building. And when you're waiting in the line outside, you can see those people coming out, and they're just having a ball. It's just such a fun topsy-turvy track that you're on. And it's a great experience. So do not miss that one. And that is where I think I convinced with the pronunciation of my bonjour that I might know French, and to that cast member at the queue, and she was like starting to talk to me in French, and I was like, hold on. But anyway, yeah, definitely get on that ride. It was so much fun. We went on the paratrooper ride, and it's very much like our jumping jellyfish, but it has the paratrooper toy soldier vibe instead. And so like the carts are like the little umbrellas that they would be on. And then they have like this tower in the middle where they're all like with their, binoculars and everything, like their little lookout. And it's such a well done themed ride. It's so fun. And they have like a fun photo op that you can take where it looks like you're a paratrooper right in the queue. It's just really cool. The cool thing about that was the side that we were facing, it took us over the wall of where they were building the frozen area of the park, or rather the whole new, addition to the park. And there was nothing to really see except for the expansiveness. Like once we could see over that wall, I was like, whoa. Because it's like the jumping jellyfish ride, right? So it takes you all the way up and then kind of bounces you down. I could not get over how big that area is behind that wall of what they're doing over there. So I am so excited. And there will be a follow-up show because we will be going. We have to. I cannot wait to see what that area actually looks like because it was huge. It just got me really excited for it. And it is open now. So if you got to go and see Olaf walking around talking to people, I'm dead. I'm so jealous. Like how amazing. Can we please get him over here? And the other thing I do want to say, side note, is that Hong Kong Disney Mystic Manor, you've heard me talk about that. They also have a little Albert that you can now meet, the little monkey. He comes out and he doesn't walk around like Olaf, but like he has a cast member carrying him, and he is so cute. He just looks like the little Albert. He's exactly the same as the monkey on the attraction. It's so cute. Anyway, I digress, of course. So the only other attraction that I kind of want to mention, one more thing about the Toy Story, or two, actually, I guess there's a couple things. The Toy Story area has the kind of like the RC ride that some of the other parks have as well. I went on that ride like one time. I think I was bullied onto it by my daughter. And also, I do not like that kind of ride where you're just like going all the way. It's kind of like, you know what? It reminds me of it's a more terrifying version, although they're both terrifying to me, of the, like, those ships, and they swing. It's like a pendulum. It goes all the way up this way. It starts out like slow, and then you're all the way up, and you're all the way up the other way, and it's like terrifying to me. I hate that so much. I'm like, put me on the biggest roller coaster. I do not care. For some reason, that ride is terrifying to me, and this is the version of that pirate ship situation. Anyway, they do have that there. But I do still feel that our Slinky Dog beats that every day of the week, and maybe I'm biased because, again, I just said I don't like that ride, but I just think Slinky Dog's such a cute, fun ride, so go Florida, we win. Anyway, the other area that I do want to talk about, because it was such a vibe to be over there, is where Ratatouille is. Okay, they did this really cool thing in that area where you feel like you're in the France Pavilion, right? I know we're in Paris, but it feels like you're in the France Pavilion at Epcot, and they have the most adorable like stands where they sell like charcuterie items and different kind of like French pastries or whatever. Every little stand, it looks like this little like wooden hut that you walk up to. So they're permanent, right? So they've put the time and effort into it, and they're adorable. And then they have the cutest, like rustic looking tables that you stand at to go enjoy your little like cup of wine and your cheese and your meat or whatever you went up and bought these little kiosks. I loved that area so much. I wanted to stay there all day. But yeah, you feel like you're at the France Pavilion, only better. So I really enjoyed that. And the Ratatouille ride is the Ratatouille ride. It was the same. So moving on, the Cars ride. I do want to talk about that real quick because we have nothing else like this. And I put a clip out there kind of saying that I was doing this episode or whatever of it. So you can go on my TikTok or Instagram or whatever, and you can see this clip of this thing because it's so very, very cool. You're kind of in that like studio bus tour vibe, like at Universal Studios. So you're in like this, lots of people can pile onto it. It's good for every age. It's a nice break from walking. I will say though, you do kind of have to like walk pretty far to even find this attraction. It was really interesting, kind of like where it was located. And I wonder like now that everything has been added on, because I remember there being a lot of the walls kind of on your walk of where they're going to be. They were, designing the new land area. So I'm sure it feels very different walking back there now. When we were there, it felt like we were like leaving the park. I'm like, where are we going? But we persevered and we got on this ride. It was worth it. And it takes you through Radiator Springs. And it's so cute because you're outside in the open air. So it's not like you're in a building, kind of like the Cars ride at Disneyland, and you're seeing some of the Radiator Springs stuff. And you're on this like bus. So it's just kind of fun. You're like taking this little tour through different parts of Radiator Springs, I guess, and seeing just these random like little cars, like moment things that they made, but they're really cool. And then you enter into this area where like a flash flood happens. And this is where it reminds me of like the studio ride at Universal Studios, because they do that. It's on like however they do it with the track and the special effects and everything, but really fun, really cool. And if you do go over there, that's one not to miss. And again, it eats people because you can just fit so many people on this attraction. So that's good. So, you're not going to wait terribly long in a line, even if there is a line, which is great. And it's a good way, again, to just kind of sit down for a minute because it's a longer attraction. So that one was really fun, and I definitely get over there and ride that for sure. So one thing is when we were watching the show, I had decided we were buying a dog, which she's now the podcast puppy, but that we were going to pick up this dog when we got back from our Disneyland Paris trip. And so while everybody was getting ready to watch the fireworks, I like skedaddled off and went and bought this like Disneyland Paris like dog bowl and stuff to surprise my kids with later. But that was just kind of something fun. This trip had a lot of like really fun memories for us because, again, like I said, it was my daughter's sweet 16. So we did like a cool photo thing. We hauled her giant prom dress with us over there. And my husband was in charge of the dress. He toted this thing around everywhere. It was huge. We did shove it into a suitcase after she wore it for the photo shoot, but we didn't want to like get ruined. So he was literally carrying this thing on and off planes and trains and all kinds of different through the city. Like it was a thing. But these pictures came out stunning. I'll put some on the Instagram after the show comes out. But that. Finding stuff to do like that, like, because you're in Paris, so like you might want to do something cool like that, just, family photos or what have you. Those are really easy to find if you just are on Instagram or Viator, Expedia even. And we found a really reasonable, connected with him through Instagram, I believe, and not a lot of back and forth till we got there. Just assumed he would show up or he wouldn't show up. He showed up. He did a beautiful job, gave him money, did the shoot, and then just assumed we were going to see these photos. Showed up. We didn't know. And they showed up and they were beautiful. So that was a really fun thing that we did and that you can do with your family. And we got the whole puppy situation. We went back to the hotel that night. And one of the things that really stood out to me about Disneyland Paris that you need to be aware of if you're not staying on property. And I say that again because if you're staying on property, this is not a problem. This does not pertain to you. You are going to have plenty of buses come and pick you up and take you to your Disney resort. If you are staying even down the street, that is not the case. So there is buses that come to pick you up and drop you off at the various different hotels down this main drag by the park. I have never, aside from the train experience we had getting into Paris, where people were shoving you onto the train, literally, I've never experienced that kind of chaos at a Disney park ever. Because here's the thing, you're still in the bus area, the bus pickup area for the other hotels. And they're all kind of like when you go to Disney World, if you've been there, or even Disneyland, there's a designated area for the buses. And you're in that area and you're one of the bus stops waiting for the bus to come. People were fighting to get on that bus, shoving people off, fighting to get on the bus. Like it wasn't a situation where like first come, first serve, right? There's some order and whoever got there first naturally gets on the bus first. It was not like that. Like if there was a family I noticed with 2 little girls waiting on the bench for a long time, even when we showed up at the end of the night. And I don't even know if they got on that bus, honestly, that bus that we got on too. Because it was mass chaos. It was like it was honestly, people were getting nasty. I just like couldn't believe it. So I do not recommend, honestly, I would pay more money just to stay in a hotel that wasn't a part of that. And that's how crazy it was. Stay on property. I mean, so yeah, that was that situation. I want to make sure I mention that just so that you're aware. Unless things got better, I don't know. It seems like, I don't know, it seems like a bit of a free-for-all sometimes in these different places that you go to. But with that whole situation, it just would be best avoided, in my opinion. So after we got off that bus, we were all just like, okay, we all went down to the bar because that was still open. And it was our last night there. And so we went down to the hotel bar, which was a lot of fun. Everybody was so friendly and we met people from everywhere and it was just like a good time. And we had just like a couple of drinks and then went back up to our room to pack to leave because the next day we would be leaving to go home back to England. And the day that we would get back from Paris is the same day because we were going to get in early. And that evening was my husband's grandmother's 100th birthday party. The whole reason we came on this trip. So we pack our room up. And another really dumb, funny thing that I'm going to share is anybody that's like a Peloton person out there. At this time, I was very dedicated to getting my check mark every week so that I could if you are a Peloton person, you know this, but like the weeks build up and then it has so many weeks that you did it. And my streak was like 300s, right? And they'll give you a check mark for anything. You can walk down the street and listen to like a Peloton class and still get the check. But I was like really serious about it. So even after having like 2 drinks or whatever I had over there, I like did a 10 or 15 minute like boot camp class in the middle of this tiny room. It was so stupid. Anyway, I ended up losing my streak because of the time difference and whatever. But anyway, we pack and we get to the train station the next day and it was so easy. I will say that because the train station is right there. The little shuttle took us over like we were going to go to the park. So we just got on the bus like everybody else going to the park that day. Because literally the train station's right there. As I said before, we had our little like Starbucks moment. I got this cute little like pumpkin mug that they had there that I love so much. And we had just this great morning. And then we get to the airport, which was super easy. It was like a 15-minute direct train ride. And then the train station is inside the airport. So again, very easy. And so we thought, well, the check-in desk is open. We'll just go check in. Well, that's not what happened at all, is it? Can't be that easy, right? We're walking to get into the little line to check in. And I don't know what it was, but I'm the one that carries everything when we travel, like the passports, whatever we're going to need. I'm the person that usually is in charge of all that. And I knew in my heart and in my brain and in my wrist, I was like, I don't have the passports. I don't know why I knew it then, because I don't know why. But I'm like, I don't have the passport. I just knew it. And I go to my husband. I'm like, hey, I don't have the passports. I didn't even look. I just knew. And he looked at me like, you got to be kidding me. As you would. And I was like, nope, I don't have them. And so I can already start to feel it. And especially because, with your kids around and stuff, I'm like trying to be level headed. But in that moment, I did feel like that moment bubbling up of panic, like real panic. And the room that we stayed in was so basic, it didn't even have a safe. So I remember placing the passports like on this top shelf. Because I was like, it's weird that, people are being in and out of the room and the passports and just like trying to be mindful. I should have just kept them. I didn't want to take them into the park because it was just like another thing I'd have to look after. But in hindsight, whatever. We can talk about this for 5 more hours, all the thoughts that I had in this moment. But at the end of the day, I didn't have them. And I'm pretty sure they're on that top shelf in the room. But my husband was like, well, let's go through the suitcases. And I'm just like, okay. So we are in the middle of this airport with our shiz all over the place. We have our suitcases open and we are just ripping through everything. And by this point in our travel, we have a bag of just like dirty clothes also. Like one of our suitcases is a dedicated dirty clothes suitcase because there's no like washer dryers anywhere that we went. So we are just going through dirty clothes and, every bag and oh my God. And I'm just like, I don't remember packing them. I genuinely don't remember packing them. So my husband's like, okay, they're not in here. I'm going to go back to the hotel. Cause I'm like, they gotta be in the hotel, right? We called the hotel, which again is awkward and weird because you're just like international calls on your American phone, the whole thing. And anyway, he gets going and he decides for some reason to take like an Uber back and not the train. I don't really know. We were just like, there was a lot going on, right? I don't know. We were thinking, cause I'm like, it's like a 15-minute train ride. But if you get like an Uber back, then it's like way longer. You can't just like cut through the countryside. You're like going all over the place. So anyway, so it takes him forever to get there. And he gets in the room and he's on the phone with me. And he's like, I'm going up to the room. I'm talking to the room people. They're letting us in and they already cleaned the room and all this stuff. So I'm like, oh my God, whatever. And he's like, going to call me back. In the meantime, while this is going on, we are just like, ugh, so sad. Me and my daughter ripped open the bags again and we're looking again in all the bags. So this is time number 2 going through the bags. And I'm just like, I have this heaviness in my body. Like what? I just can't even think. And my daughter at the time, again, she's 16. She's a smart cookie and she's not the parent freaking out. So she's looking up the U.S. Embassy, seeing what next steps are. She's acting like the responsible adult in the situation, which is great. And I know like one of the things that we need to do in our research, on the spot research, is that we need to like cancel these passports, right? So I'm like, there's like a little policia like thing there that you can walk up to window. And I'm thinking this is what we need to do. So I'm walking over there to cancel our passports, which feels like we gave up. Feels like we don't have them, admitting all the things out loud into the universe, that we have a whole problem on our hands. And by the way, we're going to go back to this birthday party. And then I think like 3 days later, we're supposed to fly back to the States and then school starts and all things. So we are my daughter's like, she's like, in that moment, I was just thinking, man, I really loved going to school in America and I'm going to miss that. I mean, that's what this kind of thoughts we're thinking, right? We live here now. And not just that, but I was like thinking, oh my God, I got to take my kids into the, we got to go figure out the American Embassy thing. Their hours are weird because it was like, I can't remember what holiday it was, but for some reason, the American Embassy was going to be closed until Monday. And like, oh my God, it was just like a dire situation. So I was like, I got to figure out the train situation with the kids at night. And because we were not going to get back into Paris till late. And then we're going to have to deal with that sketchiness again. Like everything was just going through my mind like that. Right. And my husband calls me and he's like, they're not here. They have turned this room upside down. I'm like, oh my God, did they get stolen? I'm like thinking about all this craziness. So he gets back. We've now missed our flight, by the way. He gets back and he's like, let's go through the bags one more time. And I'm like, oh. In my mind, normally I'd be like, what, you don't trust me to like be able to go through that bag? But no, I wasn't. I was like, I really hope, let's go through them again. I was genuinely like, I really hope you find them. I hope I'm incompetent at looking for things and I hope you find them. And I genuinely meant that. And so we're going through the bags. We found them. And guess what? They were in a toiletry bag because I don't remember putting them in there to this day, But sure, 2 glasses of wine later. Listen, pack your bags and pack your passports before that. Okay. Before you go down to the bar and have fun. I literally put these things in a toiletry bag and a zipper where I put like dental floss and probably pads. I'm sorry. Like that's the pocket they were in. You know what I mean? Oh my gosh. The way we jumped up and down, it was like a movie in this airport. We were so happy. We were hugging and jumping. It was like watching a movie. We were on cloud 10. We went up to the guy with our passports. Here's our money. Take our credit card. We need to get back. Like we managed to get on a flight. Oh my God. We were celebrating. It was the best part of the whole trip. We were such a low, you're such a high. It was like a magical moment ever. And there's this guy kind of like next to, the check-in kiosk. And he has his bag ripped all the way open and his stuff is all over the floor. And we were him. He was totally beside himself. He couldn't find his passport. Same thing. What is going on? And we literally I'm like, we have to go up to this guy. We have to go talk to him. He was looking so distraught, so up. We're like, dude, that was us, man. Like, can we help you? Like, he was so distraught looking for his stuff. And I'm just like, oh my God, that was literally us. And I know how this feels. And I don't know if he ended up finding his stuff or not, because we had to keep moving on to the next thing, which honestly was like a glass of wine. And let me just tell you something about this place. There's wine everywhere. There's wine. You can go into the store and get a sub sandwich and a bottle of wine just in the airport, just like you're walking into anywhere. It's just there. And you can take it out of that place and you can go sit in the waiting area at the airport and you can open your bottle of wine. They give you a couple cups, like plastic cups. And they're just like the little bottles of wine. And we did that. And let me tell you something, that really helped bring the nerves down a little bit. But anyway, I felt really bad for that guy, and I hope he did get to his destination. But it was just like, oh God, that moment when you can't find your passport's unreal. But anyway, I will say that it's not like I make it sound like we drink all the time, but we don't. But also when in Rome, we enjoyed the wine in France, and even when we were in Rome, and we never had headaches or hangovers or anything. So explain that to me. I don't know. People talk about whatever in their wines and stuff. Somebody explain it to me, because I don't get it. But yeah, anyway, we had a wonderful, wonderful time over there, aside from, that craziness with the passport situation. And for, everything that we experienced, everybody was lovely and friendly, and we made it to the birthday party. I'm like, just imagine you all the way over there, and that's you for the whole reason, and you miss it, But anyway, I know that was kind of a chaotic wrap of Paris, but that was our experience. And, it was real and it happened. And when you travel, stuff's going to happen. And I hope that never happens to you. Let me tell you something. I always know where my passport is now. I did before, but, that still happened to me. So things can happen and go awry. The train situation, the bus situation, the hotel situation. There was a very mixed bag of stuff that went down on this trip, but it was one of my favorite trips as a family. I think we got to see some amazing stuff. I have this awesome picture behind me of our family from the photo shoot thing and in front of the Eiffel Tower, which is just crazy. You know what I mean? My goodness. I used to just travel to South Carolina in the family car, which was awesome, right? I mean, the fact that we even get to go and do anything is crazy to me. But we really enjoyed it. And it's such a wonderful, beautiful park. The cast members were wonderful that worked at the park, just like our parks here. And I really encourage you, if you get the opportunity to go to Disneyland Paris, to absolutely, or if you're going to Paris, to carve out a day or two to visit that park. You will not regret it. It is a wonderful time, and you don't have to be a massive Disney fan to enjoy it. It was a beautiful, beautiful park with wonderful people that work there. And they did an amazing job with their storytelling and just the way that their parks are laid out. And I'm just so grateful that we got to go. And I'm grateful that you all came with me on this journey. And if you made it all the way to the end here, thank you for coming back and supporting me. I really appreciate it. And I hope that you guys will leave a like or a comment on this episode if you enjoyed it. And if you have any questions about it, I'm always here to help answer some of those. And Thank you so much. And I hope you guys have a wonderful, magical weekend.